So we'll go ahead and get started here. Thank you guys for joining. You go ahead and stay in here, Sergeant Buchanan. All right. So my name is Master Sergeant Julius King. I'm the Career Assistance Advisor for Joint Base Andrews, and my fellow co-host and wing woman is Master Sergeant Melisa Witter. She is the Bolling Pentagon Career Assistance Advisor. This is the Chief's Power Hour. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you are a repeat customer, top fan, as we like to call it, welcome back. And if you are new, thank you for being here. If you guys have any questions during the course of this conversation, please feel free to ask it, right? You ask real questions, you get real answers. There's no specific topic for what we do here today. It is letting you, or really letting the conversation guide where we go with this, all right? So if you have a question or a comment that you would like to make, there's a little button on there. It allows you to put a hand thing up. That lets us know that you're ready to talk. Or you can send a direct message to Master Sergeant Witter, and she will ask your question for you. So without further ado, we will let our chiefs introduce themselves. We appreciate you guys for being here. So whoever wants to go first, probably Chief FITZSIMMONS, since you're on first, if you want to go ahead and kick us off, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you work, and we'll go from there.
So good morning. I'm Chief Master Sergeant Breon FITZSIMMONS. I'm a career Farsi linguist, and I recently moved from being a squadron superintendent at the 70th Operations Support Squadron at Fort Meade over to being a joint senior enlisted leader within the National Security Agency. So I'm really excited to be here today. This is my first time being on the Coffee with Chiefs, so look forward to your guys' questions. And this is Maggie. She just woke up. She actually slept in today, which doesn't happen very often. Say good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Maggie.
All right. Chief KLINK, you want to go next?
Yes, good morning. So it's hard to follow. I don't have a cute kid to put up in the I told you mine are 20-something, so we'll leave them out of the video. Chief KLINK, I'm the SEL over at DISA. I'm a repeat offender. I really like this forum. It gets me in touch back with the airmen. As a lot of you know, we don't have a lot of airmen in Big A over at DISA and DISA headquarters. And so this gives me a chance to get back in touch with the Air Force side of things within the NCR. So I always appreciate the opportunity. And for those of you, I like to give a little background for questions. You know, I started out medical, was a first sergeant for E7, 8, and 9, then did the command chief thing a couple times at Portugal, and 24th Air Force down in San Antonio, and that's how I ended up here at DISA. So any questions along that windy path, I'm happy to answer. And I can say it's been a really busy week with the release of the green states, the changes in the ETPs, and some other things. So I'm hoping we get some questions along those lines. I've been putting a lot of time and a lot of work into that area for my boss and for my agency.
I guess that's me then. Hi, Chief Fran Perkins. I am currently the superintendent of the 7th Intelligence Squadron over on Fort Meade. I am only going to be here for another about 6 weeks, and then I am headed off to a group job out in the Vegas area. Let's see, so I've been in the NCR, a little bit of background, I've been in the NCR since 2010. Started off over in Virginia and just kind of have been bouncing between assignments / units here. So I'm excited for the move to see some different scenery. Let's see, I'm a 3 Delta. I'm a 3 Delta. I've been a 3 Delta the entire time, mixed in with Intel.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here. So I know we kind of talked about, where we wanted to go with this conversation this morning, and probably like seeing that we thought we were going to have a small group, and it looks like the group has increased a bit. So I guess the biggest thing that I want to ask, I know everybody's at home. You see here, I'm at work. We're about to have an immersion tour. So are you guys excited for things to open back up? And what is that going to be like for you all? I know, I think somebody was saying they're doing one on, one off. As we start to open things back up, are you guys seeing that you're continuing with or have you seen around kind of with your counterparts and stuff? Are they continuing with the one on, one off, continuing with telework, or do you see people more so starting to say, hey, let's bring it back, and starting to bring people back in? So whoever wants to take that first, please jump in.
Sure, I'll jump in first. So for me, I was joking before this all started when we were chatting, that, if I can find a job in retirement where I work 1 week and I'm off 1 week, I am all about it, because I have just felt so much less stress, being able to get all of my life admin done, on my off week. And so for us, we work in Intel, which it's tough to be able to telework with a lot of the stuff that we do. But I know that at least within my unit, we were really going to try to push some of the stuff that did not need to be, within the building, out to telework. So, and I know even the agency is looking for ways that we can have more people that don't need to be within the building to start teleworking. So I hope that we find ways to do that. I hope that we all, for me, I hope that I can take this as a lesson of not to overschedule myself or the family, and to sort of relax. I think it's been beautiful to see the kids sort of have a normal childhood that's not super scheduled with sports and events, and be able to just go ride their bikes and enjoy, a simpler life that I sort of had when I was a kid. So yeah, those are all kind of the lessons that I've taken that I want to do. But I think we're going to probably continue to do the 1 week on, 1 week off, at least for another month. And we'll see what happens, especially if there is a resurgence of the virus in the fall. But yep.
I'll jump in. As you guys know, DISA really never closed. We had to ramp up the VPNs and the ability for people to telework. We actually activated reservists and brought more people in. So our situation is a little different. We did a little bit of the blue gold, or the silver black, whatever you want to say, for the different shift splits out. But really the guiding principle to share here is all of those decisions from my director on down through our chains is mission based, meaning we don't have an arbitrary, we're bringing 20% back. We don't have hey, by this date, we want to have some phases. And I know some organizations have plans out there like that, and that's great. We didn't notice a reduction in productivity go into a full telework force, and a good portion, out of DISA's 17 or 18,000 people, 1,200 of them are military. The rest were civilian contractors who were already very familiar with teleworking and were producing in that fashion. So the balance between we didn't really lose the productivity and it's going to be a mission-based decision. I don't expect there to be a whole lot of shift in the type of work or the type of schedules people are working over the next, we'll say 30, 60 days. The new normal, I mean, a lot of people are thrilled. We had a telework survey that went out to a couple thousand of our people. And although there were some written complaints about, distractions at home or on a way to break away from the screen and putting too many hours in and things, in general, people really like this balance and are able to make it work. And really, the takeaway from the survey, almost to an 80th percentile, they want to continue this going forward. So we'll see where that takes us in the rest. But my piece to add is we are not going to see a big shift within my agency of pulling people back in. We're going to continue to work this way. And a number of the leadership team, myself included, we have classified devices at home. With not having to secure data at rest, which is new. You don't have to have a vault or a skiff like in the old days where everybody had to lock up their devices if it was at home or things. So it's given us some new options to collaborate we haven't had before. And so we're even trying to get over that hurdle of to keep the classified mission going. So that's my ad.
I don't know if I can add much more other than say, it's been nice to be able to have that balance between kind of taking care of things at work and taking care of things at home. I particularly myself have a pretty long commute. I was at Andrews before I went up to Fort Meade. And so I chose, we own a house down here and my husband was working a little bit further south at the time that I got the assignment. So we chose to, I would just commute. So it's been nice not to have that long commute and spend a little bit more time with the family. I think I'm more excited for my kids to have a little bit more of to be able to see their friends a little bit more often. I think that is what I'm happy about as we go further into the rephasing of everything kind of reopening and whatnot, especially as we get closer to moving here in about 6 weeks. So it'll be nice for them to see their friends that they've had and not been able to see for a while since everything's been closed. On the work front, I think people are taking care of what's important, and I think that has been our focus. And I think as long as we continue going forward, where we cut out the stuff that doesn't need to be taken care of and we focus on what's important, I think that is a big bonus of us going through the situation with COVID currently.
And I forgot a quick follow-up. I don't know if you guys can really say it, but as we talked about this, and then we talked about the probability of a resurgence coming up, what are you doing to prepare your airmen this go around? The first time it kind of came down, like, I remember we were in FTAC one day and we were like, Friday, they were like, all right, that's it. Everybody's teleworking starting Monday, right? So nobody had time to prepare. So as we look forward and we know that it may happen again, what are we doing, or what are you guys doing to prepare your airmen, not only for like what the work schedule will shift back to, but financially? We saw a lot of issues come up. So what are you doing to prepare your airmen financially and prepare your leaders, supervisors on up to deal with those issues this go around? Oh.
So in my unit, our personnel support the NSA. So we are matching kind of the NSA's schedule, which is, pretty much a week on, a week off. What we are doing for our other personnel is, of course, it's always personnel based. So, if you have high risk individuals who are pregnant or ill family members at home, of course, we are leaning towards, keeping those family members safe and those personnel safe. So I would say it's very much our kind of focus is that we want it to be very much personnel focused. And of course, there are some exceptions with, needing to get people in at work to take care of those mission things, but very personnel focused and making sure, as we start ramping up on the command team side a little bit more, we're not teleworking as much, we're going into the office more, but we're making sure we maintain that, the health and safety protocols that have been put forth from the CDC. So we're maintaining those, 6 feet from other people. We're wearing our masks. We're making sure that we're washing our hands regularly. And so I would, that's the message that we're sending out to the team is just continue, take care of yourself, but continue practicing, those health and safety protocols that are out there, even as they venture out and about now as things start to reopening. We're just reiterating, do what you need to do to, maintain your mental health and take care of, yourself and your family with, if you have to go shopping or what have you, but make sure that you are washing your hands and wearing your mask and doing those things.
Yeah, not a whole lot to add to that. I think that the fact that we can actually start talking about this now. Oh, sorry, my video was not on. Talking about this now and sort of talking about the fact that there may be a resurgence definitely puts us in a much better position than we were before, when we were all, as you said, really blindsided. We were sort of here one day and then gone the next. So we are just, continuing the conversations. I think one of the really positive things that have come out of all of this is we found so many new ways to communicate with our airmen. So for us, Slack has been a huge one that we have for our unit, that people are constantly in communication with each other. People have made connections with folks that they didn't know they had so much in common with before we started doing the stuff on Slack with, what hobbies are you doing or what DIY projects? And you're finding people that have so many things in common that we didn't know about before. So I do think just continuing the conversations and continuing to ask people, where are they struggling? What do they need help with? Things that we probably should have been really deliberate about doing before COVID. This has forced those conversations to happen, which is really a great thing that I hope will continue going forward.
Yeah, no, the only piece I'll add to that is, so we definitely have, two schools of thought. I can see it with these exceptions to policy coming through for leaves and vacations and stuff. And it's, some people absolutely don't really care about the level of risk or what's there. I mean, it's just really obvious. They're asking for. We had somebody wanted to do, a photo shoot. We had somebody who wanted to go to a family reunion with like 75 people. There are definitely two camps on this, and then there are some people who are very conservative. We've had some complaints through other channels about, hey, my workplace isn't far enough away from another workplace, and I don't feel safe coming into work in this. And so the real leadership challenge is balancing those two tribes and those two kind of mindsets of people, because my girlfriend's down in Texas. She's chief down there, and they kind of opened up country dance. Well, how do you country dance in social distance? I don't know how that works, and I don't think it does. But what I'm saying is, people are making those kind of choices and doing those type of things, and they have to balance it. As we open theaters, as we open other stuff, some people are going to be very comfortable with some of this, and some people aren't. And all those people are our airmen or our employees or our workers. So we got to learn to balance those two camps, and that's going to be the real leadership challenge, because people are going to be making personal choices that could put others at risk, and we have to balance that risk decisions as we approve them or as we work through it. So I think that's the real challenge ahead.
I have actually one more ad. I listened to a great podcast by John Maxwell yesterday, and I think he summed it up nicely. At the very beginning of going into COVID, we were very reactive, and now we have the chance to be proactive, right? And we have the chance to get in front of this and make the right decisions ahead of time, so that we're not in reactive mode. And so that's a great part of being a leader today, is we have a chance to get in front of it and think smartly as we move forward.
Thank you guys for that. So I am in office with Master Sergeant Buchanan Gomez, who is the ALS Commandant here. So she has a question she would like to ask. Please.
Hi, everybody. So one of the questions that I get from the students a lot, and even my own subordinates, is how is this going to be impacting future promotions, EPRs, etc.? Because it's hard enough to fill in all the bullets when you can't volunteer and you need to socially distance and you're only working half of the time. Thank you.
I'm
So I
gonna go
think,
ahead.
oh, go ahead.
So this one comes up almost every. I try to do your group once a month, and this comes up almost every month. And we're doing it right here. I mean, you're involved, you're collaborating. We got groups of people. You're continuing to host events. You're continuing to do things. And so this is a good example of the model. It's we have to continue to find ways to keep up those battlefield circulations, to do that sort of thing, and we're doing it virtually. Yesterday, I did my first Pentagon virtual day, and normally I go to about 6 or 10 different offices, key places, functional managers, things like that. And I just stick my head in so I stay current. I can answer at all calls and things like that. My exec and her team, they set that up virtually. I had 7, I think, phone calls yesterday, 30 minutes apart, a couple as phone bridges and the rest. And you just adapt and overcome. So if what you did in the past was volunteer or was professional development or was mentorship groups or whatever it was that you were involved in, the challenge is how do you continue to do that in this new environment and not really use it as an excuse to say, oh, I can't do anything, I can't fill my report and the rest because, stuff has changed. I think it's about being creative, being adaptive, and not using that as an excuse not to get after it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think we've seen a lot of creativity from our airmen as far as being able to still contribute and still be a part of the team. I've put a lot of stuff out on the Slack channel for looking for people to help and step up and do different things within the unit. And whether we're in the COVID situation or when we were back at work, it was the same people that were, stepping up to help out. Right. So, I think it's on all of us to use this as an opportunity to find ways to be still a team player, but know that everyone is in the same boat, right? So we are all experiencing this together. So there's going to be folks that decide to just take this time and maybe they're a single parent, right? Maybe they're a single parent and they're having to homeschool at the same time. And I think as leaders, what I've told folks is, when you know that you have people like that, when you know you have folks that are single parents that are really struggling right now, find ways to help them to contribute, right? If they're great leaders, find ways to help them contribute, right? Give them something that they can do to kind of to give them that support, which you would do, regardless as a leader. If you're going around and you're talking to folks and they're looking for a way to step up to make their EPR stronger or whatever, you as a leader are going to find a way to help them. I think we still need to do this during this COVID time. But again, cream rises to the top, and it will in this as well. So find ways. You guys are all here on this, which is, as Chief Klink said, a great example of still, trying to be a member of the team.
Ditto. I can't really add much more. I think they summed it up quite nicely. I would add just a couple more points. I would also say that, the entire Air Force is in the same situation. So records are going to look the same aside from the cream rising to the top, right? So everybody else is, teleworking from home and experiencing those same challenges. I would also add one of the things that I constantly tell my senior NCOs in the unit is they should be doing something every quarter. And if you're doing something every quarter, something for professional development, something for the community, sitting out for 3 months, 1 quarter shouldn't really affect you, right? Because that is 1 quarter that you haven't been able to do anything. And then no matter what challenge you deal with in life, because whether it's COVID or you get sick or something happens to you, your dependent gets sick and maybe is in the hospital for a while and you're not able to do the things that you are normally able to do. If you follow those, doing something every quarter, 1 quarter isn't going to affect you and your APR.
Good morning, Sergeant Witter here. Thank you all so much for your thoughts about that. And you're right, Chief Klink, it does come up every time. As airmen, our wheels are turning like, how can I keep up? What can I do? One of the things in February, Sergeant King and I, we were at our initial CA training. We had the opportunity to visit basic training. And one of the things that the TIs talked about down there were brainstorming about issuing all airmen like an iPad or a laptop or something that they would take with them throughout their career. And at the time, I was like, that's crazy. How would we pay for that? That's so, because that hasn't been our normal, right? And now, the chiefs on the panel and Sergeant King and I, because of our jobs, we all have devices at home. But despite that, a lot of us still have to use personal devices for things like this because we haven't found the right tools yet to work virtually necessarily. Within your units, are you talking about trying to issue, more laptops? Are we thinking about the way ahead that maybe that is what we need to be doing? because in theory, people that need a computer at work, that computer's been purchased. So is it time to get rid of our PCs and, issue everyone a laptop? What are your thoughts about that, or moving in the future? Because similar to Chief Perkins, I was listening to a different podcast yesterday, and they talked about generations and even how we define that as changing. But that the reality is that technology is only new to people that can remember the before. So I think that we're moving into that phase where our airmen will be like, what do you mean? You used to not have a PC at home? I think a lot of us on the phone, on the line, or some of us, from what I can tell, probably had our EPRs on floppy disk and blue folders, right? So that seems a really long time ago. And really, imagine asking our airmen to start that process. They're like, what do you mean a floppy? What is this? So what are your thoughts about moving ahead in technology and kind of being more mobile?
So I'll take a stab at this one first. As a 3 Delta, computer systems are near and dear to my heart. Way back when, 20 years ago, I would have rolled my eyes and said, no way, right? Because of how quickly technology had changed, and computer systems way back then didn't last very long. But today, right, at least, the laptop that I'm working on right now, which is my personal laptop, obviously, is, I've had it for about 5, maybe even 6 years. And so I think technology today is lasting a lot longer than it has traditionally in the past. I'm a big fan of issuing people their own laptops. We use laptops where we're at now. Nobody has a desktop in my units. We all have laptops on our desks, and with the exception of inside the building, they're a little bit different. But the command team, the CSS, they're all using laptops. The ability for our airmen to be able to take their laptop and PCS from assignment to assignment, and just to have that transfer with them is going to give them a lot of flexibility. When you think about the number of times our airmen have gone TDY for training and have been told you need to bring your laptop with you, and there have been challenges with that. So maybe they're issued a government laptop, but they haven't really used it before, and then they get to their training location at Maxwell or Keesler, and it's not connecting to the network properly and all of that. If they had, and they don't have the administrative permissions, which is the other challenge, right? I think I heard recently that the Air Force was looking into a bring your own device sort of scenario where you would have your own laptop, your own personal laptop, and you can bring it in and somehow introduce to the network. And I'm excited to see where we go with that. But I'm a big fan of it. I think it'll just eliminate a lot of the issues with our airmen PCSing to different bases and having to wait for their account to get set up. But, our accounts today aren't like they were, 20 years ago. 20 years ago, when you PCSed, your account would be deleted from your base, and you would go to a new base and you get a new account set up. And so today your account gets transferred, right? It's up there in the cloud, and you PCS, and they just pull you into the new base. And so we are just so more advanced today with technology. I think it's a matter of time before we are able to do that. I think there's some challenges with where does that money come from and whatnot. But I think it's the direction that we need to go.
So this one's right up my alley for DISA, because this is really something we've been driving. So we are the Pentagon service provider. A lot of people don't know that there's an organization called JST that does all of the comms for the Pentagon. SecDef comms, SecDef cables, all the different offices fall under one entity over there, and that's a DISA organization. We've been issuing MSgt, and what that is basically it's a thumb drive that you put in a personal device, and it makes it your government device. And then when you pull it out, it's gone. So, there's nobody within our agency that I'm aware of that has a tower. Everybody already had laptops and the rest. But I really think the way forward is things like Mill Drive and Mill Suite, things like CVR Teams. We've been doing a lot of collaboration on that type of stuff. And these are all software-based, account-based. They're not device-based. So I really think the way forward, 5-7 years from now, technology-wise, I don't even think we're talking laptop. I think you have a secure way to log in from any device, any place, and the data that needs to be saved and recorded is saved and recorded. The data that doesn't isn't. We're working through the PII stuff, but all in all, we saw that with the Pentagon. We issued thousands of those Moby keys when people got sent home on the telework order, and they didn't come back to pick up the other devices as we made them. We've been manufacturing a lot of devices along the way to help people, and once they found a solution they liked, that's what they stayed with. They might have been forced onto it initially, but that was the answer. So I really think that's the direction we're going. It's dangerous me doing this with Intel and 3Ds in here, but that's my prediction of where it's going, and I think that's the way ahead.
Well, you guys heard from the experts, so I don't have a lot more to add to that. But yeah, I do start to get those hairs on the back of my neck standing up when we talk about issuing these things out. But at the same time, right, we've seen breaches and security things through other ways. So as long as we train people how to be secure with the information that they're using, I think that the return we get on getting our airmen more connected is going to be way more of an advantage than the threat that we introduce by having this kind of available. So I think it's that cost benefit analysis, and I think the costs far outweigh any of the risks that we would introduce with having everyone on devices and everyone available to connect to the network.
And I think Chief KLINK can probably answer this. Isn't it the reserves that use that desktop anywhere? So it's like a VPN that you can access from your home computer, but it's like you're on a government system. Is it the reserves that are using that?
Yeah, they have their system. I can't think of the name of it right now. But really, it's just we're going to more and more software-defined networks. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. It's a software-defined network, and when you pull up your account, you don't just pull up an email, and you don't just you pull up your logs for your search browser. You pull up your saved files and your saved drive. It basically you're pulling up your account, anywhere. And we've struggled with some of that thin client technology and some of the things that go with doing it, of not actually having a box there. But that's kind of a worthy challenge for the engineers that are working it. And it's each cycle it's getting better and better. I really think that's our way ahead. But yeah, a lot of the reserve. It's not a VPN tunnel. I'm not sure what it is, the technology they're using, but it is a software-defined account that they're logging in remotely from.
That is that's awesome, and I thank you guys for letting us know some of the things that are on the horizon. So I think my next question would be, and I'm not sure if you're allowed to answer this, with everything that's going on with teleworking, have you guys seen a huge increase in attacks and cyber attacks? And is there anything that we can do on our part to help defend, I guess, to say? Over.
I have some stuff from the Joint Chiefs side, but I was going to let the NSA experts take that one first. So I'll back clean up with some of what General Schwedo testified with.
So I'm not actually in that area right now, so I'll let you go, Chief.
All right. Like I said, I'll share the piece that General Schwedo was able to go openly. What it really amounts to is the method of spear phishing has obviously followed the trends in the news, whether it's the civil unrest that we've experienced the last few weeks, or the COVID, the about 6 to 8 weeks before that. These attackers are smart, so they follow the trends and they build their links and they build their news and the rest to try and entice that sort of click the link, download it, in the rest. And so, although we've seen a shift in method or medium, what we haven't seen is an uptick in attempt. It's the same people who've been doing this, consistently. And there was no level of detail in the testimony. It wasn't state actors or individuals or criminals or the rest. But it's been a pretty constant amount of probing of the networks and attempts to gain accounts and access. It's no different than any other time. But they have been leveraging the situations at hand to try and get people to click that link or accept that piece or the rest. And it's actually been, from the analysts that we have over in the Doden side, pretty steady state. Like the brief is that it's pretty constant. It's there, but it's not just because we've shifted to home versus work hasn't really shifted the attempts to gain accounts or to get user credentials.
Thank you guys for that. And then my last question before I turn it over to the crowd or Sergeant Witter. I think they used to do it. Not sure if they do it anymore, but are you guys going, like, as we talk about using personal laptops versus government issued laptops? We know there weren't sometimes so much, a lot to go around, and people had to, get their own CACs. Are they reimbursing, or are they going to be providing more free security programs for our military members? I think McAfee used to be free, and then it wasn't anymore, and there was another one that used to be free, but then it wasn't anymore. So are we going to see government purchases for that, or do you know if these companies are going to start offering them free again for government employees?
So I'm pretty sure you're pitching these to me, Sergeant King. I'm sorry. So DISA wrote a contract for Norton McAfee for 1 year of use the first few weeks that COVID came out. We have a 1 year free use agreement out there right now. I don't have the specifics on it. I don't remember the how much it closed for the rest, but it was a 12-month contract that as people were forced to go home and use their home devices, that they'd have the ability to get it. So if that's something you need the actual details of to share with your audience or the group, I can reach out to my DITCO, which is my contracting team. But they re-implemented something like that as within the first week or two of the COVID breakout. They knew people were being forced onto their home devices and the rest. So that is there and that's in place. And it's really a layered defense piece. It's great that you have that or you're running something like that. But the true security, I mentioned it earlier that I was able to get a classified device at home, and the reason I was able to get that is because when that device is powered off, there's no information on it. And so as we go towards more of that type of no data at rest, that the only data that's being stored is in, secure government facilities, servers, some of our data processing centers and the rest. Although protecting the endpoint is going to be important, I guess the piece to share is that USAA's model, they consider every endpoint's already owned. And so when you're logging into your bank, they have a secure banking app, and they're assuming that device has already been compromised. And they build their software and applications in a method that accounts for the fact. So although, I'm a proponent of, having your up-to-date antivirus software and the other things on there, a lot of it is on the application owners to design their applications in a way that really keeps the data secure in transit and at rest.
Thank you so very much, Chief KLINK. I apologize. We're getting ready for this emergent tour, so people are like walking by and like, oh my God, you're doing this. Can you ask this question since you have those people in there? So that's why the questions keep firing off. But I'm out. Does anybody have any questions from the crowd? If not, Sergeant Witter, on you.
I guess it's on me. So really and truly, it's a 9:45. And this morning we talked about moving from the being reactive to, to COVID and kind of transitioning back to what is going to be, so as someone said last week, changing with the times. I think that one of the things that I'm wondering about is, and this comes up also, but just what have you learned the most about yourself, personally and professionally, or both, during this time that you think or you hope? I think I heard Chief FITZSIMMONS say it earlier, just about maybe taking time to slow down, especially in this area. A lot of us are guilty of going. But what do you plan to take with you?
I think I would say personally that it's okay to take a break. That's probably one of the biggest things I've learned is to take a break. I've learned more about what's important in regards to, our airmen. It's not necessarily always the admin. It's taking care of people. connecting with people, and just that our people are resilient. I know that's more about what our, it's not me personally, but I've learned just to keep an open mind and just continue to be adaptable and flexible.
Yeah, I think for me, definitely, slowing down. I feel like I've been more productive on my on weeks at work, because I was able to sort of decompress in the off weeks, and then just sort of focus on, doing things like this and then email. But for the most part, I've been doing, home projects. But I'll say that as a leader, I think the thing that I've learned is that, you don't have to see the person and be 6 feet in front of them. While that is ideal and fantastic, picking up a phone and just calling someone and reaching out. So there's been some things that I've heard some flight chiefs will, pick 3 people a day and just give them a phone call, see how they're doing, right? It's like how you would swing by in their office. I've been trying to do similar thing, take the recall roster, just find 3 random people and just give them a call and see how they're doing, right? It's that getting creative, and not having to think that you always have to do things the same way. So I will definitely continue the just reaching out on the phone, when they're at home. I think it's you see a lot, especially in these kind of meetings where you see people in their home situation. I think that can show you a lot about where that person is at, and then it can help you be kind of that intrusive leader that we need to see how things are going. But for me, it's definitely to relax, to not overschedule and not to overstress, right? So, because I do think when you get enough rest, when you're exercising regularly, eating right, you're better for everybody. So hopefully I will continue to do that after all of this.
Yeah, I guess the biggest takeaway I've had here now that we're a few months in is some people work way too much. Now that they've got their device and their connectivity and stuff, I have people hit me at 6 a.m. and 10:30 at night, and they're the same person, and the sky is not falling, and it shouldn't be perceived that it is. And so I think one of the things that's kind of coming up is, we said that some people, some people at work put, in a 10-hour day only put 2 hours of work in. Okay, they're at the water cooler, they're talking, they're walking around. So the idea that you can, somehow get away with things if you're teleworking, I don't think that that's that much different than in the workplace versus at home. But what I am seeing is that people in the workplace pretty much have to leave the workplace. And although they might have stayed on some devices or some things, there was that hard break. And what's happening is some of our workforce is kind of flowing into this constantly on thing, where, the VPN's connected all day, the messages are connected all day, every message gets answered immediately. And so I think we have to be careful about that, because that's going to lead to a different type of burnout than we're used to. There's no break between work and family. It's kind of mixed together. And so, I try to be deliberate. My team knows that I don't read email on the weekend unless I'm told to. I mean, if my boss or someone says, hey, I need you to look at this, or someone from the team says, hey, chief, this needs a response before Monday or something, that's a line I draw, that I do not get on my email over the weekend. Sometimes I regret it when there's 100 and something there Monday morning, but I do my best not to be on or not to clear them every night, because I know how that expectation rolls down on others. If I put them out, they're going to answer, and if they put them out, the next year answers. So that's probably been, now that we're 90 days or 120 days in, the biggest takeaway is some of our workforce is really working too much, and they struggle to unplug.
Thank you all so much. I think that we'd all definitely have a lot of similar lessons learned, but I really appreciate the boundaries and the reminders how important it is to take breaks and take care of ourselves, because a lot of it, looking up, that's how we interpret success, right? It's like, man, they're on top of everything. They've responded to all the emails, they've cleared out, and they've effectively got their kids in every sport and every activity. And we do it as parents as well, right? We look to our left and right, like, man, my kids aren't doing those things. So I really appreciate your transparency in that. Coming up in the end of the hour, we'll give a moment if anyone would like to ask a question. And if not, then we can just do our closing remarks. And we do, some of you have already suggested a book in the past. So if you don't want to, or if you want to share a podcast that, you know, has been really effective, that's up to you. Most certainly appreciate your time. When this initiative kicked off, I shared it in the past, but I wasn't sure that we'd be able to fill up a panel. And from the initial email, I was filled out to the end of June. And so that was really exciting for Sergeant King and I. And I think that every participant really appreciates all of your time, taking the moments to give back to us. So thank you so much for that. If anyone would like to ask a question, or if anyone else walked in Sergeant King's office, because they all heard he's in. He's looking, I can already feel it from my dining room. He has a question.
This is my last, well, we're coming to the end, so this is my last question. As leaders, right, so you guys talked about, like, I think Chief Klink just said getting an email at 10 o'clock at night and then getting one at 6 in the morning. I'm the guilty person. I think I sent the email like at 12 o'clock last night. What we're finding is a lot of people, a lot of leaders have not defined the new close of business, right? So you see a lot of leaders emailing, texting their members at like 8 o'clock at night saying like new tasker, please get this in by close of business. So what are you guys as leaders doing to prevent your leaders from overly tasking their members and for tasking them like too late? Like, how do we define the new close of business or end of duty day? Because when you're working at home, it's easy to keep going and you look up and it's 7 o'clock. Like, are there any strategies you've used within your units to prevent people from doing those things, working too late? You can't really stop somebody, I guess, from doing it, but letting folks know like, hey, after this time, we're done. Over.
So I think one of the things that we have to be cognizant of is that our duty hour may not be the same as another counterpart's duty hour. So for instance, I have 4 boys at home, and if I am at home, well, they're not in school anymore, but when they were in school, it was very challenging in the morning time, right, at the start of this COVID, because they had online school and different Zoom meetings with their teachers and whatnot. And so my duty hours ended up being closer to later in the afternoon, right? I was much more productive after, say, 1, when they got through the morning time frame of their school. And sometimes I would, you know, it's better for me to work after they go to sleep, right? So I did send a lot of emails at 9, 10 o'clock at night, but my kids are sleeping and I'm able to have some uninterrupted time. But we have to share that with our airmen, right? So you have to let them know, like, hey, I am dealing with this during the work week. Here is when you're going to hear from me. And as I was sending out emails or Slack messages or things like that, as I was dealing with what I needed to respond to at work, I always put in there, I'm not requesting a response right now. You can wait and respond to me next duty day, Monday morning, whenever it is, because that is when I was able to accomplish things. And so I think as leaders, we need to make sure that we are transparent with, you know, what looks right for us, and then ask them, right? Ask them, hey, you know, what does it look like at home for you? How does teleworking work? When are you most effective? When can I expect something from you? Some of the things I did notice internally is that there's a lot of hot taskers that have come down, but as leaders, right, we push back and we say, you know, there's a lot of these. Is everything really hot? Is there a way we can get these a little more in advance? And so if you see a large amount of hot taskers and short notice things come up and you're having to respond to them, you know, late at night or early that next morning, I think we need to push back and ask for a reprieve, because not everything is hot. And especially when you think about, you know, a lot of that happened at the beginning of COVID. Is that really where our focus needs to be? And so trying to get to what are they trying to get at? What is the purpose of this task or this thing that I need to respond to? And does it really need to be responded to right now? Can I focus on more of, you know, what's going on currently?
So, yeah, this is a tough topic, because I'll give you the example. My current boss, Admiral Norton, she works a lot. Okay, she works a lot. I don't mean it in a funny way. You know, I put it in perspective. It's her hobby. She's an IT professional, and she's going to talk IT stuff well into the evening. And, you know, that's not really work for her. She's doing something she enjoys. So, you know, we have to kind of filter that to the echelon below us. It's really what it is. I'm not going to change. She's had 30 some years of this being successful for her, and reinforce that is why she's successful. It's not going to change in her last, we'll say, 3 years or however much time she has left in the service, because it's been reinforced that this was her path to greatness. She's vocalized the fact that she doesn't have that expectation for people to be constantly tuned in, and she put that out as part of her command guidance when she came on board before I was ever here. Hey, I send messages sometimes. I don't expect a response. If I do, it's going to say urgent. She was very clear. It was about 4 PowerPoint slides on how she communicated and what her expectations were. So what I would say is, if you are one of those people that puts out that much time or that much of a spread of activity, put the rules out. You know, put pen to paper or type it up however you want to say it, and put out what your rules of engagement are. And like I said, and I kind of did some of that with my own team. You know, I'm immediately there to respond if you call or text me, but emails are going to sit dormant, and unless something drives it otherwise. And the second piece is just something I picked up, you know, a while back, was when I worked in the Pentagon. General Welch only worked 2 or 3 weekends in his entire 4 years as the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. And he also went home every day somewhere close to 5 or 6 o'clock. And if the Chief of Staff of the Air Force can do that, what does that say for everybody else? Well, then that was a great talking point. He shared that and everything, and everybody knows he was a great speaker. But the thing was, he cheated. He would wait till his family went to bed, and he would put in another 3 or 4 hours at night. But he purposely shaped that work that it was work he could do alone. It was critical reading. It was review of speeches. It was the type of thing that he would do on his own that wouldn't affect the teams and the rest, because he was aware of it. And so what I adapted from that is, when I do get on and cheat a little bit on a Wednesday night because there's just too many messages there, there's too much stuff, you know, it's the critical reading out of AFPC that's a 7-page op order. It's things that I don't have the time to take in the day, but I know I need to consume, you know, at some level of detail. So my advice is, try to shape your work in that when you are working during the duty hours or whatever your set kind of, you know, perceived message time is, work those type of things and push the things off that you can work on your own. That it makes it a little impact on the rest of the team, and maybe it buys you back that time that you need during the day to handle those things while people are in the workplace. So it's really just about balancing the tasks at hand.
I think that's excellent advice. And so I came into an organization once where I guess where the superintendent sat and where the airman sat was a different spot. But I guess the superintendent had this habit of calling over around 6 o'clock in the evening just to see who was still there. Right. So everyone had this fear of, oh my gosh, if I leave before 6 and the chief calls, you know, I'm going to get reamed for it. So, you know, I quickly realized I'm not going to be that person, right? If I'm going to call over at 6 o'clock and someone answers the phone, I'm going to ask, what are you still doing here? Right? What task have I given you that's so much that you're still here at 6 o'clock in the evening? So I think we all have to choose, you know, which leader are you going to be? Are you going to be the one that everyone is afraid is going to call at 6 because they expect you to still be at work, even though you probably shouldn't be? And I think there's nothing worse than those folks that try to compete, like who can work the longest, right? But they're not actually accomplishing anything. Don't let your organization fall into that. It can be very, very toxic for an organization. And I think setting those guide rules, right, is super important. I'm the same. I don't do email on the weekends. Weekends is for my family. And I found that I'm still able to be successful, right? You're still able to do everything you need to do. You don't have to prove to anyone that you can work longer hours. That's not necessarily needed.
Before Sergeant Witter closes things up, I appreciate you guys. As we know, immersion tours are never on time. They're supposed to be here at 9:15. They are just now showing up. So thank you all. I'm out. Sergeant Witter, I'll talk to you later, everybody. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. Don't hang up, though. It's just me leaving.
Thank you, Sergeant King. Have fun. So thank you to everyone that's still on the line. And, Chief, for sharing the tips to try and keep the better boundaries in. I really agree with you, Chief Perkins, as far as realizing everyone has different times. Sometimes I wish I could block the time stamp on my emails because it's very telling. It's like, what were you doing? Don't worry about that. At 1:10 in the morning, that was the best time for me to send you this email. It's definitely not trying to pretend like I worked the entire day till 1:10. But on days like this where we do these things and other pieces, and it is a telltale sign, but we all have to get in where we can fit in. So I appreciate that. At this time, if we just like to do our closing comments, closing thoughts, don't feel pressured to share a book if you have already shared one or not, but definitely appreciate your time and everyone that's tuned in and has been able to stay on for this call.
Well, I guess I'll go first for closing since I started with opening. I really appreciate being a part of this, right? So not being a squadron superintendent anymore, I usually had these sessions with my airmen, and this is really where I drive my sort of motivation from, is hearing from the airmen and hearing their thoughts and having these conversations. So doing things like this helps keep me motivated and helps keep me grounded, right? So I appreciate everyone that tuned in. Hopefully you took some nuggets from it and you'll share that with others. What I always tell my airmen is that if you can focus on improving yourself, improving your work center or your current situation that you're in. So for some that might be, finding ways to improve how you're working at home right now. And then if you can find ways to improve others, you will be successful, right? Whether it's in the Air Force or in life itself, if you can always focus, whatever it is that you're doing, if you ask yourself, okay, who am I improving or what am I improving as I do this? I think it'll help you be extremely successful. So focus on that. Continue asking your questions and being transparent. If you ever want to reach out to me, you see my name, you can find me on Global. I'm the only Breon FITZSIMMONS anywhere. So please reach out and I'd love to chat more offline if necessary. Thank you. And thanks for putting this on. This is really fantastic.
Chief Perkins, would you like to go next?
Sure, absolutely. So I think, I shared some tidbits the last time I was here, but I think this time what I would like to share is, to just remain flexible in how we move forward. Things are ever changing, and I think that they're going to change as we continue going forward, getting through the COVID phases, because there is very likely going to be a surge, and so we may see a little bit of retraction. I know we're slow rolling here at the NSA, right? We are still in, I think, orange is what we're calling it, and so our personnel are still unable to go anywhere outside 100 miles, whereas maybe some of our counterparts are a little bit more flexible on where they can go. So just keep an open mind as we continue forward, and be transparent with your airmen. I think a lot of our worry from our airmen is because they don't know what is going on. And so if we share what we do know, I think it helps ease their mind a little bit. I shared some books last time that I was reading. I'm a huge reader, still reading more books. But what I wanted to share is I mentioned John Maxwell's podcast. He continues to be a favorite of mine. He continues to be one that I recommend a lot to people. So the John Maxwell Leadership Podcast, I really appreciate how, he has little snippets and then his team then talks about it a little bit more in depth. And I always get something from it. And I appreciate that the ones that are happening more today have to do with COVID and just being a little bit more flexible as a leader and the challenges that we're dealing with today's environment. And so I'm sure if you just take a listen, they do tend to be a little bit longer, closer to about an hour 15. But plug it in while you're cleaning or something. I definitely find them very helpful in the approach as a leader. And so I hope that you'll take a listen. Thank you again. This has been very wonderful. I always appreciate, getting outside of just the 70th ISRW there at Fort Meade. And so hearing from airmen on the wider audience here in the DMV is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief. And last but not least, Chief KLINK.
Okay, yeah, I was digging over on the computer here on the side. So the most recent one I had was, it's by Rich Barton, and he's the founder of Zillow. And it says remote employees face a greater risk of burnout. And it's an article. You can look it up online. My assistant director, General Yee, shared it with us. And it kind of goes into what I had mentioned about people not being able to set up those boundaries and get those breaks that are required. And it's a pretty good read into how to manage that. I couldn't find the other link real quick here, but what I did want to say is there's another article out there. It's definitely circulating on LinkedIn and some others. And it's about how to manage a effective virtual team. And it's about expectation. The time is really not a factor. It's an expectation based. And this is from people that have been working with remote teams for, 5 to 10 years now, whether they're international or domestic. The biggest piece is getting off the timelines or the hours. Different people have different needs, and it's supposed to be results based and expectation based. Like I said, those are two that I put down recently, and there's a lot out there. It doesn't need to be by that author piece, but if you're in those forums or in those venues, a lot of that stuff is circulating right now. So I recommend taking the time to read it, kind of one link at a time. That's it for me. Again, thanks for letting me do this. I enjoy it every time, and we'll see. I'm gonna push this out better to DISA that time. I know we had a lot of participation at first, and I assume it's mostly because of circulating the link and the opportunity. I don't think it's something that people don't want to be a part of. I think we got to get this out a little better. So next time I'll be a little more proactive and get the word out within my organization. But have a great one, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity.
So thank you all so much again for your time, and everyone that was able to tune in that's still with us. But Chief Perkins, if we don't see you before you PCS, good luck. That's really exciting. Hopefully none of this current stuff prevents you from getting there. You're in a good timeline right now. And Chief KLINK, it's always a pleasure. And Chief FITZSIMMONS, hopefully we will see you again. But please always pass it on to your people and have a great day. Thank you.